another episode of Storytellers. I'm so excited to have such a special guest today who's one of my friends. She is somebody that I feel like I can go to with anything. She is like my hype woman. She is a shoulder to cry on. She gives the best advice, and I'm just so excited to have her here with me. I have Samantha Fair.
I'm gonna
Hello.
cry at that intro. That made me emotional. I
Oh my
love
gosh.
you.
Well, it's true. I feel like Sam and I met each other. Well, we met each other like before Lindsay's girls trip, but Sam doesn't really remember.
Listen,
Um,
it was a whole big press day, I think.
it was a press day, and
But
I interviewed her, but I really felt like we connected, and she clearly didn't. And
shut
then we
up.
connected
As soon as we met
actually.
at Lindsay's bachelorette party, inseparable from that moment on, she was like,
It's
"You're gonna be
true.
obsessed with Allie. You need to like connect." And I
It's true.
think it took us literally less than a week to hang out when we got back to New York after that trip. We were like instant
Exactly.
besties.
Exactly. And I think that really the selling point for me was when all of the girls coming back from the trip, like, were getting in an Uber, and Rich came to pick me up at the airport, and I was like, "Sam, you wanna ride?" And she was like, "Get me out
I
of
was
here."
like, yes. Well, because everyone was like going to
Please.
Hillstone and like going and having real food. And I was like, babes, hell no. We just did like 4 or 5 days in the Bahamas. I'm hungover. I'm in sweatpants. I can't be seen at Hillstone right now. I was like,
Right.
"Can you please get into your car." And then Jenks and I just snuggled in the back
You and
seat.
Jinx snuggled in the back, you and Rich, like, became
Bestie,
buddies, and I was just
bestie.
like, "Well, Sam's in the fam."
It was the perfect end of trip, like rounded out, high note.
Also, how funny that, like, we were the youngest people on that trip, and we were the ones that were like, "We gotta go to bed."
Mothering, yeah. No, the last night, I don't even think I drank because I was like,
No.
"We have to travel tomorrow," like a mother, like, I don't know what we
Yeah.
thought we were doing.
Remember, you, me, Gabby, and Danya, who is, like, 8 months pregnant, went to dinner. Like, it
Which
was
Tanya
like
has
we
a
were, like,
baby now.
5. I
I
know.
can't believe that's like it's been a long time since I had a pregnant friend who, like, I felt the baby kick and then, like, they give birth.
Okay, so how are you feeling post Not Skinny, Not Fat interview? Like, you're coming off a really whirlwind week. Your social media has been blowing up. You're selling out mascaras and serums. You're like taking over companies. I need that serum, and now I can't get it
I
because
know,
you
well, I can't get it now, I almost regret it, like, I was
right,
like, this is the one I don't really gatekeep anything, the only thing I gatekeep is my hair salon, like I
your
said on
hair.
the show, because if what happens to this serum happens at my hair salon, I will be a
We're in
brunette, and it
trouble.
doesn't suit me. So, yeah, I'm feeling great. I think something that's really important to me is my relationship with Kory moving forward. Because I'm not the kind of ex who will like go around trashing you or like wants to be
Yeah.
your enemy. Like we don't need to be talking every day, but I was like, it's really important to me that we respect each other throughout this whole process. And that for me will just help me at least move forward with a clean slate and like think about my future instead of ruminating on the past. So both of us have really done our best to go about this in a way that tells our truths
Mhm.
without being unnecessarily disrespectful or bashing the other person. Um and I'm really grateful we have that kind of relationship. And I think that's just a testament to our relationship when we were together. So that's to me the most important part because, like, this is, yes, it was a very public relationship, but at the end of the day, it's about us. So that was the most important part for me. And that feels really good right now. Um, the rest of it is just overwhelming and beautiful and so special. I mean, I one of the things I always say about my Instagram community and about all my jobs really is that the most important part of that to me is to build community and to feel like you have a family in your personal corner of the internet. And there have been a lot of times in my life when I have felt the presence of that family, but nothing even close to like this. I mean, I have people I went to high school with and college with reaching out. I have like thousands of complete strangers reaching out. I've heard from all of my good friends. I've heard from everyone in my family. And it to really be able to measure the size and also the depth of this community has been like an incredible humbling experience. I can't believe how many women have reached out just to be supportive and be like, I'm literally married with 8 kids, but like I've been where you are and I'm so proud of you. And then there are the women who are going through it right now who are like, this either gave me the strength to leave a bad situation, or I left the bad situation, but I've really been struggling with it. And this gave me the inspiration to move forward. So honestly, that has been extraordinary and really, really humbling. And then the Amazon thing and like the products, it's
Yeah.
crazy. So like jokes on me because now I can't get any of my favorite products. Um, like which sucks, but another time. Um, I don't even have partnerships with these brands. They are genuinely just products that I have known and loved for years.
Yeah.
Um, and that was not a plug. And it was just people are like, how do you get your eyelashes so long? And that's the answer. So it was really bananas when I got the first DM saying, Bestie, you sold it out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's on Amazon. Like, you don't sell things out on Amazon. Like, that's a different breed. And it was correct. We sold it out on Amazon. Unclear if or when it will be restocked. The mascara is still available. So for anyone listening who wants to know about it, it's the Thrive Cosmetics tubing mascara. I swear by it. And you can find the link on my Instagram page for the specific one that I get. And it's in my Instagram highlights. So that's always going to be on my page. But it's been really a roller coaster. Just like data wise, we sold about 5,000 of the lash serums. And as of the other day when I checked, we had sold almost 2,000 of the mascara, which translates into like between the two brands, I made them roughly like $115,000 in one day, which I think is crazy.
That's
And like
crazy.
it goes back to the community and the real strength of this community. It's not fake. It's not like just internet friends. We're like friends who trust each other's recommendations, like they bought that mascara the same way I would be texting you, like, you need to buy this like pair of socks, like they're my favorite. You know what I mean?
Right.
It,
So look
it's
at you with the
really,
best.
yeah, it's really impressive, um, like and humbling to feel that power of our community there. So I did reach out to the brands and I was like, we
Oh,
should
good.
get together. So everyone manifest that for me. Thrive Cosmetics, if
Yes.
you're listening to this, email me.
Well, and also too, I feel like it's a testament to like I almost was going to say the persona that you've put out there, but it's not a persona because it's exactly who you are and people can see that. Like people aren't going to buy into things that aren't authentic. And you have been authentic with your community. You are offering up just who you are, what you use, and people buy into that versus buying into they're not going to buy into things that aren't real. And so it
Yeah,
is a testament to like
I've
you and the community you've built.
yeah, I've been a creator since like 2015, back before influencers were really ubiquitous. And it has really always been super important to me to promote products and services and brands on my page that actually fit into my lifestyle. And
Mhm.
everybody goes through phases where they like try a product and then it's like maybe not for them and they like never use it again, or tries a product and they like it but then they like switch to something else, whatever. So every once in a while you're going to see like a post for a brand on my page that's like one off that I'm like using in the moment, and then maybe like something else comes along and I switch it up. But it's really important to me, and it always has been really important to me to show people what I use in the long term and what I like, and not promote brands that I don't actually use. You'll see a lot of influencers like sell out and someone will be like, here's 5 grand if you post a picture of our like this shirt or this
About
like,
skincare. Like some things are
yeah,
really personal and like you have to use certain stuff. And so we're not gonna, get paid to post like something that makes us break out.
totally. Skincare is one where it's like, I actually do, if a brand reaches out offering me skincare, I oftentimes don't even accept gifting because I'm like, it's wasted on me. Like I use
Yeah.
my exact skincare routine. It's mostly drugstore products. although I'm a huge Dermalogica girly, so like I do be using Dermalogica all the time. But a lot of that stuff, like I just won't promote it because I'm like, it's not fair to my audience to be like, here's how I got my skin. It's not like,
It's not.
and also skincare in particular is really tricky because a lot of people are on medication or have had Accutane or like lasers. And you're usually not getting the full picture when someone's like, use this moisturizer, you'll have glass skin. Like,
Right. And like
that's
what
not
works for you
realistic.
might not work for me because we have different skin. That's like
Right.
that's the hard thing to promote for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I try to avoid partnerships that just feel like random or like I'm like, if I think like, oh, like, how much are they paying me for this? That's usually my first red flag. Like, don't do the partnership because when it's brands I love, like, look at what I did with Thrive Cosmetics. I just sold like gajillions of their mascara and it wasn't a paid partnership because I love the product. So it's
Yeah.
for me, it's always more about sharing like a true recommendation with my audience. Because to me, they're my friends. I'm not going to call you and be like, try this product I've never tried before. Let me know
Right.
what you think. Like, that's
Yeah.
not, it's not me. It's more important to me to get the recommendation right and to make sure that my community trusts me, which clearly it's paid off because clearly they do.
I feel like you did such a great job during the podcast, really like putting yourself forward and I'm not going to say falling on your sword because I don't think that you did that by any means, but you didn't place blame. You pretty much you just did it in such a elegant way. So as to not ruffle feathers, it seems like. What was his response to you? Like, have you talked since?
Yes, he actually sent me a really nice text message afterwards. He had listened to it the morning it came out, and he just sent me a text to be like, "You did a great job. Like, this is a huge podcast. Congratulations. Like, great get. But also like you did a great job, and like I'm really proud of you. I'm really happy to see how positive your outlook is." Which is like a core tenet of my personality and something I always appreciate when people notice is like I really try to look to be optimistic. And he was just happy about it. And he said, like, thanks for not destroying me on the podcast. And I was
Right,
like, I was like, you're welcome. But
right.
the truth is, like, I don't have an ulterior motive. I I want to tell my truth for the exact reason that was like proven back to me to be the right reason, which is like so many women relating to that story and being in that same position and finding the strength to get what they deserve. Um, and for me, the way to do that is to just share my truth.
Mhm.
And I always find it so like crass and tasteless when people go talk shit about someone they just spent like a year and a half with in a relationship. I just don't see the point. Like, I can tell you how I felt, I can tell you my experience, and I can give you some words of wisdom so that ideally you don't have that same experience and you can learn from it. But I respect this person. I spent a lot of time with them. We had some really good times, and I just feel like it was never meant to be a slam piece. And also, let's just bottom line: this story's about me, not
I
him.
was gonna say it's about you.
That's
Yeah.
just it. Like, it's for every time I'm in a relationship, I make it about the other person, and for the first time in a long time, and I think moving forward for a long, long time, it's about me. Like, this isn't the story of how Kory was a piece of shit. This is the story of how I figured it out and discovered my self-worth.
Yep. And did something about it
Yeah.
instead of letting it be your life and sitting in misery.
Yeah, and I think that's actually an important lesson that I took out of this that I think other people can take out of it and also applies everywhere to every part of your life is like you can totally let your life happen to you.
Mhm.
Life comes at you fast, right? And it's so easy to sit there and let things happen to you and just accept what you're given and, you can only control your reaction, right? But
Mhm.
there's something else you can control, which is you can make things happen. And I
Mhm.
I really feel like I've taken back my power. Like for a long time I was letting that relationship happen to me. And I was just kind of I was not actually consciously thinking this, but it's kind of like, all right, well, this is my lot in life. Like the only thing I can control is how I react to it and how I handle it.
Yeah.
That's not true. You can be active and take control of the situation. Like I needed to actively make a choice, a very hard choice, to leave that relationship so that I could have a better life and so that I could ultimately find my husband. And
Right.
like every moment I spent in that relationship with a man who didn't give me what I deserved was a moment that I was taking away my opportunity to like meet my husband. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's something you can apply everywhere in life, at work, in love, in friendships. Things don't just have to always happen to you. You don't have to always be a passive participant in your life. I
Mhm.
think like that has been one of my major lessons here. And I've really taken it a step further and I've applied it to my whole life just to see if it worked. And it really does. Like the ROI when you actively invest in yourself is incredible.
Yeah. Well, I feel like too that you actually your entire life you've made things happen for yourself, but it was kind of just in like relationships that you were like almost a passive participant. Why do you feel like that is? Is it, or I mean, it probably won't be like that anymore.
Right. Definitely not anymore. You know, I think what it is that I'm a hopeless romantic, honestly. With work, it's so easy for me. It's so clear to me. It's like you see what you want, you go get it. But I don't have like emotional feelings about work always the way I do in a relationship, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes my heart is so much louder than my head. So for me, I think there were a lot of times in my relationship with Kory where my brain was like, red flag, red flag, red flag, stand up for yourself. And my heart was like, you love him. And I don't want anyone to think I'm comparing Kory and Kory's and my relationship to this book, like the experiences of this book, because our relationship was by no means abusive. But I just finished reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And there is a whole part of the book where the main character Lily is grappling with like her husband abuses her. Do you stay because you love him or do you leave because you love yourself? And you really have to it was just kind of eye-opening for me to have it put that way because at the end of the day I was making a choice every day and I was choosing him over me. And I think in some relationships that works, but only if your partner is choosing you over him,
Yep.
where he was not, which meant that both of us in the relationship were choosing Kory all the time.
Yep.
And that meant that I like when I looked in my reflection, I was like, okay, who's taking care of Sam? It was nobody. And I once I kind of figured that out, that was when I let my head kind of take over and make the decision that I knew for a while I needed to make, but my heart was like not letting me let go.
Mhm. Well, and I feel like we've talked about this for a while now, you and I, and without going into like leading whatever led into this decision that you ended up making, even in those final moments, when I was listening back to the podcast and you were explaining like that 48 hours of just not talking and how it was almost like you were like kept being put to a test and it was very like juvenile. It wasn't
Yeah.
an adult relationship.
Yeah.
But sometimes like that cat and mouse game is like fun and exciting and you get really drawn into it, which is why it's easy to be like, am I the chase? You know, you
Yeah,
get
I've always loved to chase with men. I always go for the unattainable ones, the like fuck boys, the one who no one can tame. And historically, I've always tamed them. All of my ex-boyfriends were like the hot, popular guy every girl wants to date, but he won't like enter a relationship. That's like a type I have clearly demonstrated now that I go for. And I'm in therapy, as I think everyone should be. And something that my therapist and I have been talking about lately, and that I think is like kind of becoming popular on the internet, like girl fodder, is like that's not the like the feeling in your chest shouldn't be panic, like fear. And a lot of people mistake, a lot of people are like, oh, I have butterflies. And I'm like, all nervous around him. And it's really insecurity. And you're just trying to like constantly earn this
Mhm.
man's attention and affection.
Mhm.
And affection, like love doesn't need to be earned, I'm learning. And as someone who like I've spent my whole life an overachiever, and you know, I would work extra hard to get extra praise. Like it was always kind of like earning everything. It was earning praise, earning credibility, earning titles, earning jobs, earning money. Everything was always like, I work for
You work
it.
for it.
And in therapy, I've kind of started to figure out like, it's not the man you have to earn. It's not the man you like feel nervous, like, oh my God, he could like leave at any second. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
not always that. Like sometimes it's the man who just brings you peace, who it just feels
Yeah.
like an instant click. Is that how you felt when you met Rich? I would like to hear a little bit about that because you have found your man.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, I think about yeah, we're getting married in September, and I have been thinking we're writing our own vows. And I've had a lot of time to think about because we've been engaged for like a year and a half, and my mind's gone so many different ways of like what I want to say to him and
And
just
you're a writer, so like you're gonna like edit and
yeah, and
draft.
try to like put into words though like how he makes me feel and just who he is to me, which feels so large and impossible. But the one thing that I thought of the other day actually was that I've never, this is crazy, I've never cried over him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. I'm like,
I've
I grew up with Kory
never
before he was my boyfriend.
has never made me cry. I never cried over him. I think and I've cried for him for so
Right,
long though. I
right.
cried for him at the end of every relationship. I cried for him at when I felt lonely and I just sat in my room alone and I wanted somebody there. Like I have totally cried for him. I have never shed a single tear over him.
Oh my
And
God, that is so powerful.
I can't believe that. I mean, not that I can't believe that. I mean,
Amen.
I can. I
It's
can.
like a unicorn though. You found a
It's
unicorn.
unicorn. I when I met him, so it's interesting because I never Sam, like for everyone listening, watching, Sam and I are very similar in our like trajectories. Like I through college though, for me, every single guy that I was friends with thought that I had a boyfriend at home because and one finally said to me, "You make yourself so incredibly unavailable that I like that we don't know because I was just working. I was just hustling. I
Wow.
had two different internships, three different internships. I was
Yeah,
out about like, and I also always just focused on like my female friendships because
totally.
I felt like I think that I had such like trauma from a high school boyfriend and even from some like female friendships in high school that I was so like, well, if I find friends that can never leave me, like I'll be okay
Right,
type
like
thing.
friends don't break, real friends don't break up.
Right. Which, you come to find out that there are friend breakups
Who the
and
real
those
ones are,
suck.
right?
Um, but I just like never prioritized for some reason like romantic relationships. I would like date here, I date there. And once I moved to New York, I again date here, date there. There was never anything that serious. And then I just threw myself into work. I was doing what I always wanted
Yeah,
to do. I was out every night. I was at this event. And to date somebody, you had to say no to those things. And I
yeah.
wasn't ready to say
You're not
no.
about to do that. No, you're driven.
And there was this, I watched Little Women, it was like the Greta Gerwig
Yeah, it's
Little Woman
great.
movie.
Yeah.
Saoirse Ronan in it plays Joe, and she had this line, and I wrote it down in my phone because I remember, and I actually went back to it the other day to show Rich's sister because she and her friends were kind of talking about how like single they are, but like that they also don't really want someone. Like they were kind of in that mindset, which was the same where I was, that was like, I just like don't want to take care. Like I didn't feel like I wanted to take care of someone yet. I still
Yeah.
was taking care of myself, and I wanted to be like so far along in my career and like achieve all my dreams, and then I'd figure it out. And Saoirse Ronan, as Joe says, because she was kind of like that. She wanted to be this writer. She was like, I do not need no man. I am
Yeah.
good. I'm good. And she says, it was December 31st, 2019. I read this. I'm so sick of people saying love is all a woman is fit for. I'm so sick of it, but I'm so lonely. And
I
that
just got chills like full body.
yeah, and I like even still think about it and I could still cry. Like that is exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need one. I don't need one. I'm gonna, but I am. so lonely and I want somebody to share all of this with. And so that was kind of where I was. I wrote that
Wait,
December
and on New Year's Eve too, you wrote that, December
2019.
31st.
And 4 months later was COVID. And then Rich and I got together December 2020.
That's crazy.
And I don't think if it weren't for COVID, I don't think I ever would have slowed down and been able to
Um,
take the time to meet someone. And so I am very grateful for that. Um, and when I met him, yeah, I felt like a total overwhelming sense of peace. Um, and I also texted my mom. I said, if this doesn't work out, you're gonna have to put me in an institution.
I'm dead. You're like, I'm moving in.
I was
She's
like,
like,
I will have to go to a mental institution. So yeah, like sense of peace, but also scared shitless because I was
yeah.
like, if it's not him, I don't know what or who else it could
But
be.
that's a very different kind of scary, right? Like for like my scary with all my ex-boyfriends is like he's gonna leave me or he's gonna cheat on me or he's gonna find something better. I have a very anxious attachment style also because of like relationship trauma. So I think that's part of it. But like you're scared is like it's him. And if it's not him, I'm done so. So
Done.
like
So
I kind
I
of love that.
but I also have an anxious attachment style and felt similarly, but he quelled any of that. Like I am somebody, see, this is like good and bad. I like voice my fears. My mom has always been like, "Oh, if you were invited somewhere, you should just text them and be like, hey, invite me next time. I'd love to come." And so
Yeah.
I have like that personality. And so
Yeah.
like, seeing them like, "Oh, like, you know, do you think that girl's pretty?" Like, I don't know, I would like sit
You're
there and like
so annoying. I love you.
I would lay like all of my insecurities out front because I'm like, if he knows that I'm anxious about this, then maybe he'll just like leave.
Wait, that's so funny.
Kill him.
But I'm similar to that too, in the sense that I'm an over communicator. And
Yeah,
it's part of why people always say you talk too much. But really, what it is I over explain myself to death and I communicate so much with the goal of being understood because my
yeah,
biggest fear is being misunderstood or like not heard at all. For me, that's where a lot of the anxious attachment comes in, like in terms of what you just said. Like I will tell you what I'm insecure about. Um, and that is like every time I think back to like all of me and Kory's like fights or conversations, whatever. And so many of them were just me saying, like, I just feel like I'm in this relationship by myself. Like,
mhm,
I feel like I tell you how I feel. I am such an over communicator. I give you so much to work with and you give me nothing. And for someone with anxious attachment to give me nothing to work with, to like abandon me, to like let me stand on my soapbox and then like leave me there is like the most heartbreaking, lonely experience. So when you were saying you felt lonely before you were in your relationship, all I could think about was like I felt lonely in mine. And that it took me a long time to put words to that. Like, what am I feeling in this? And I was feeling lonely,
yeah,
lonely in it. Like I was there by myself. A lot of the time. Not all of the time, but a lot of it.
mhm.
Especially towards the end. So I think, you know, it sounds, I mean, I'm really excited for this wedding. I think you and Rich are like perfect and a match made in heaven and such a good example of like what to look for, especially for someone like me who like gravitates toward not rich. Like I'm
Right,
kind of rich.
right. And I think that I yeah, you gotta like kiss so many frogs to like get to fit what you realize that like you should be with. And like that's why Rich really does always say he's like your last relationship's practice for the real one. And
You're
like
so right.
all of them, but
Practice
you
the
know,
dress rehearsal.
yeah, and I'm thinking too of just like you putting out your fears and insecurities versus me putting out my fears and insecurities. Rich immediately comes in is like, no,
Yeah,
no,
don't be
no,
weird about that, and yeah,
no.
don't be insecure about
Versus feeling, and if I felt alone, then yes, I would have cried over Rich. I would have
it. Yeah,
felt alone and I would have felt anxious about where our relationship was headed because I wasn't getting any feedback. And
correct.
people like us strive off of feedback, but we also I think that I spent a lot of time too going for people with like similar personalities as me.
Yeah,
That's this
interesting.
like very front-facing personality.
Yeah.
And I've actually had a lot of conversations recently. Because I think at first too, I thought that Rich was kind of more front-facing. You know, he was like a quarterback or not a quarterback, he was a football player, he was a soccer player, you know, all this baseball. And so I was like, oh, like he's like a jock and he's really social.
Yeah.
He is actually an introvert.
Interesting. He was so easy to talk to, like, in the car when I randomly met him, and I was like, "I'm
Yeah.
getting in your back seat, and we're gonna hang out for an hour and a half."
Yeah. But
But, like
he's easy to talk to, but he's an introvert. Like
yeah,
I want to go out every weekend and like do dinners and things like that, make plans. And he's like, I want to sit on our couch together and recharge. And that's like our biggest source of tension.
that's interesting. I was just gonna say because I actually think I mean, I imagine that being a source of tension, I totally get that because I've, like, been there too, because I'm the you, obviously, but
Right.
I also feel like that's so good for both of you because you
Yeah.
force him to get out sometimes, and he probably forces you to slow down sometimes, and, like, the same way COVID, like, there's a silver lining in everything. You may not wanna stay at home, but you need it sometimes, and to be slow sometimes is really important. That's such a nice balance to have.
But for you, like looking ahead, I feel like that's probably not something you would think about because you
Yeah.
do similarly go for like, you know, these big personalities
I
like
go
you
for,
have.
like, the big popular social guy. Yeah, every time.
So I wonder like if you would be, you know, ought to have somebody who's like a little more like on the quiet side. And then you bring the personality. Like I'm the personality in the relationship.
Imagine if there were 2 of me. That's what me and Kory were. I was like, no one else talks. Like,
Mm.
Kory and I take people to dinner, the 2 of us just we put on like a fucking show. Everyone else should have bought tickets. But I actually agree. Like, I have definitely in the past dated a little bit more casually, usually not so much. Like all my boyfriends were like the popular guy.
Mhm.
Which like was clearly never the right man. But I have dated the like more quiet behind the scenes guy. And I think for me, the trick, and probably was for you as well, is finding a little bit more of a chill guy who is thrilled to see you shine. Because there are those chill guys who are either intimidated or they think you're extra or too much or like this or that. And they think you're like superficial or you're fake. And I'm like, no, babes, I'm like this all the time. But the key is really finding the chill guy who like lets you have your like spotlight, but who loves it, who's like,
Love
she's the life of the party and the center of all my stories and the sunshine on my cloudy day, not like, "Oh my god, she's so fucking annoying." So that's the
the
key. It's a hard
gardener.
balance when you're looking for, like, a more chill guy.
Yes. Well, it's the gardener and the sunflower theory, where
Someone told me was it you who told me that?
yes,
It was.
yes, two
Yes, I was like
sunflowers.
I was gonna try to say it, but I knew I'd butcher it.
Yeah, but that was right. Sunflowers face the sun, and so two sunflowers like can't be together because they both need the sun. But a gardener that like nourishes and helps the sunflower grow is the perfect partner. And
Yes.
really, like that's exactly what you need to. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it yet. We'll announce it in a later episode of my new little business venture that I'm working on. But Rich literally trademarked it this weekend. He like went did
Yes,
all of
that's
this.
a good
He's like, "I'm
boy.
your CFO." Like he is like pushing, pumping me out, like
Investor number
into it.
1. Probably
Yep,
employee number 1 too, let's be for real.
one number one fan. He's all those things, and so that's what. Yeah, everyone needs a number one fan. I don't could not tell you where to locate. I met him
Yeah.
on Hinge. That's what I would say, but I
I
know he's
know, which is
done.
crazy, but we talked about this the other day, the dating apps are bleak these days. I I re-downloaded them and it took me all of like 2 or 3 days to just delete them off my phone again. They're miserable, but I have also found, like, because I grieved this relationship so for so long while I was in it, I feel like it didn't take me that long to kinda get back on my feet when I actually ended it. So I've been, it's been over a month now. And I just kind of started like talking to boys again, which is like really weird and funny. But I, one of the big takeaways from my whole lesson of like be an active participant in your life, not a passive like observer, is I've just been so social for 2 reasons, 3 reasons. One, it's good for my mental health, like when I'm going through something, to be around people and to be social. Because as an extrovert, like for me, I recharge by spending time with people. Like
Mhm.
every once in a
Yeah.
while, I still need quiet time, but like I really would, even if I'm drained and tired, like I usually feel better leaving a hangout rather than worse. So one for my mental health. Two, is for my female friendships. Like we were talking about, like I've really been prioritizing my female friendships. I have, and people always say, like, how do you make friends as an adult? Um, and for me, it's really just like putting in the fucking effort.
Mhm.
And I talk about this more on my page, but in the last like 6 or 7 months, I would say, like when I really started feeling lonely in my romantic relationship, I turned my attention to my female friendships. And not only have I felt closer than ever to my lifelong friends, but like you are here. You are now such a close friend of mine. And we didn't even know each other before Lindsay's trip.
Right.
Like I've made like 4 or 5 other friends who I would now call some of my best and closest, like people who are going to be bridesmaids in my wedding. And it's so crazy how like quickly those things happen when you just put some time and attention into it. So that's the
Mhm.
second reason I've been like super active and like in social lately. And then the third one is to meet people, like romantic partners, like whatever, to meet boys.
Yeah.
Because I'm not I the app thing is so different, I think, than it was during, especially during the pandemic.
During
But
the
even before the pandemic, it was so much better than this. It's really bleak. And I just also, every guy I've ever dated, I was able to kind of like work up to it and like warm up to it in person. Like
Mhm.
we might not have been like friends, but we had like hung out and like,
You have the chemistry
interacted
that
a little.
you know, like you're
Yes,
able to
like
test it out.
you get a temperature read before you start actually dating. And being such a social person, that part of the relationship is really important to me. And it's really important to me, like if you're matching with someone on a dating app, you know their list of hobbies that they put there and like a little bit about them based on their prompts and their photos. But
Right.
you don't really get the full picture of somebody's personality, obviously, until you meet them. And
Mhm.
I'm just not interested in like a 2 hour Friday night special with someone I've never met before. It's
Yeah.
just not the vibe. But if I'm out, for example, this coming weekend, I'm going to Aspen on a big girls trip with a bunch of my friends. And I was saying, like, what a great place to meet your husband. Because if you're out at like X bar, like whatever bar, insert name here, on Saturday after, say you're at the Snow Lodge on Saturday afternoon, seeing Bob Moses in Aspen during X Games weekend, right? Like just by the fact that we're both here, both chose to be here in this moment, spent the money, put in the effort, organized the trip to be here in this moment, says so much about the kind of person you are, what you like to do with your time. Like, and then if we meet and we have chemistry also on top of that, now we're
Right.
rocking and rolling. Like now I want to like go on a date with you. So that is really important to me. So like those are kind of my three like reasons that I literally I said to my friend the other day, I need to slow the fuck down. I'm gonna pass out. But like I've had plans every single night of 2024. And that's
Yeah.
not realistic and sustainable for like every single day my whole life. But it has been the most fun, rewarding, exciting, like social time I have had in recent memory.
Well, I
And
bet
you
you
might
feel
remember
like
from last year I've been on reality TV. So like for this to be better than that is
yeah.
crazy.
And I bet you're you feel like a little like you're making up for lost time. Like
Totally.
you're
Which
been in
like I try to get people kind of out of the mentality of that because it's like you can't have regrets and like I'm
Mhm.
so young and like whatever. But of course I feel that way. And also like part of the reason I feel that way is because I knew in my gut that it was the wrong relationship way before I broke up with him, right? So
Right.
like that's the wasted
That
time for
time.
me.
That time.
Yes. And
Not
that's
your whole
what I no, but that's what I say to people is like from the moment I knew he wasn't my husband, yes, that's when the wheels started turning, but that's when I should have been like, all right, he's out. I gotta go find him somewhere else. It is hard. And that's why like you give yourself grace, whatever. But that is part of what I'm doing is like I feel like the last 6 or 7 months, honestly, could have done without him. I could have been out there doing whatever and it maybe wouldn't have been such a hard breakup if I had done it sooner, right? Or if I had recognized the signs. And it's not because I didn't want to be with him. It's because it was so clear looking back that he didn't want to be with me. And I just deserve to be with someone who is like falling over himself to be with me. And so, yes, I think part of the like super social, like I have a trip plans like every month for the next 10
Yeah.
is like I just want to get back out there and like meet people and have fun and like be silly and kiss some strangers and like dance on a dance floor nightclub until 5 a.m. with my best friends. And like I just like I think there's a little bit of time in there that I like grieve just for that time when I like could have been doing these things.
Mhm.
So that said, like the forward projection of the next couple months is like so magical. Like it's so I'm really so happy and I'm so optimistic. And like I'm just looking forward to so much. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't have like anything holding any worries holding me back, any anxiety holding me back. Like I'm living for me
Right.
and it feels really so good.
You're 100,000% your authentic self, which is the best part of you. It's what I love so much about you. And I'm proud of you for tapping right back into that, um, because the world deserves to see her.
Thanks. I think honestly, I've been saying this too to my friends is like when I'm a better me, like when I'm pouring into my cup, I'm a much better friend. I'm a much better daughter. I'm a much better partner. It really has taken me a long time to learn this, but as an adult and coming out of this relationship specifically, I'm learning like I've always just really like given my last, like I'll be running on fumes and I give them to someone
For
else.
dinner. Right, right.
Yes, and that's always been my priority, and it's taken me literally until now to realize that, like, if I don't prioritize myself, I can't be all of these things to all these people, and I
Mhm.
want to be, like, that's my I really find joy in being an amazing friend, an amazing daughter, an amazing partner, and I can't be any of those things unless I'm taking care of myself first, so that has been a really amazing takeaway too, and I think part of why, like, I'm just really pouring back into my cup right now.
Well, as you do that, you also have a fun announcement for something that you're doing to build your community even further and continue, I mean, to pour into everyone else's cup.
Yeah. Well,
That's a little
I
bit.
mean, I think I've always kind of wanted to start a podcast, and it has been on, like, the tip of my tongue for years and years, but it just has always felt like, "Oh, everyone has a podcast."
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm not gonna be just, like, another, like, Bravo spinoff girl who, like, starts a podcast and, like, whatever. So there was some of that holding me back and some of, like, people hear enough from me, like, I don't know if they need any more. But then a stranger actually sent me, and this is why I love my fucking community so much, right? Like the same way I give them strength and like motivate them and inspire them, they do it right back to me. And that's part of what's so special about it. But a stranger, I wrote something on my Instagram story about how like everyone has a podcast. So I don't know how I want to do a podcast. Like it feels like I'm just like copying everyone else. And she messaged me back and she was like, everybody has a podcast, but nobody is has the same brain. Nobody's talking in the same way about the exact same things all the time. Like nobody has the same exact perspective as you, the same exact experience as you. And that's what's valuable about your podcast.
The
That's different than
chills.
everyone else's podcast. And it just was kind of like, duh, like, you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
you're so right, bitch. Like, let's go. So,
You were
uh,
being fake. You were being fake.
yeah, yeah, that's my whole thing. I was being fake. Like I love to say that. I say that when people do negative self-talk. Like you're so fake. Like you know that's not true. So I just decided the other day I'm gonna jump in because after being on Not Skinny and knowing I was gonna be talking to you, I just and then getting the response to Not Skinny too was so overwhelming. And what it was like me and my friend Amanda sitting down for like an hour and a half and like having a conversation. And the fact that so many people just really resonated with it and it was so meaningful to them and like they were like, we need more of this. It just kind of confirmed for me, it reinforced that this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
So the podcast is coming. I don't have a date yet. The trademark stuff is all out to my lawyer. So we're definitely getting there. I really want it was really important to me to like name and trademark the
Yep.
branding immediately before I launched because I've started a couple businesses now and I know the tea. I know what happens when you don't do that. So that is underway, and there will be a podcast coming to your guys' ears very soon. I would say probably optimistically within Q1, and if not Q1, then early Q2. So I'm really excited. I just think it's another way, like you said, for me to communicate with my people and to like deepen that connection. And I have some serious inspirations. You, Paige DeSorbo, and Hannah Berner on Giggly Squad. I have Amanda Hirsch on Not Skinny, Lindsay Metzler. We met at Acme. Like, I have so many smart, bright, talented female friends who do this, who I just find so inspiring. And I've seen the communities they're able to build. And it just really makes me so excited about all this. But one thing that a lot of them do is like they'll reach out to their audience, like they'll post on Instagram or whatever and be like, what do you want to talk about? Like, what are you feeling? What are you experiencing? What are you going through? Like, maybe that's what we talk about this week, because I make this joke that like none of us have ever had an original thought. We're also like we're all going through the same thing and we're thinking the same things. But there is a line in the sand between the people who just go through it and then the people who are brave enough to talk about it. And
Mm.
one of my big things is like, I'm always going to be the one who's brave enough to talk about it, because even if it's embarrassing, even if it's sad, even if it's hurtful, even if it's weird, even if it's confusing, even if you're not sure you're 100% right, like there's someone else out there thinking the same fucking thing. And no one has ever said it out loud, so they don't feel seen. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I tried to be on Not Skinny But Not Fat. That's how I try to be here. It's how I try to be every time I talk to somebody. And I just feel like that my podcast, the idea will be that it'll be to say the things that so many people leave unsaid and to make all of these women who are going through these canon events feel seen. And that's the goal.
I just can't wait for the community for you to be able to continue to cultivate this like great sisterhood that I feel like you already have.
That's what it feels like. Like we're all best friends
Yeah.
sitting on my bed at like midnight.
Yes, but for also these people, what I think you're going to excel at, is for these people to grow with you. Like it's going to be, through your relationships, through your marriage, through motherhood, through, like you have just this great audience that I think is going to be with you and going through it every step of the way, which is going to just, you know, it's a great launching pad, and I cannot wait to listen and just watch it happen.
Thanks. Well, it really does feel like a lot of my followers have already done that. Like a lot of my followers are back from like 2015, 2016, and have seen me through my Cosmo job, like summer house, everything, through many boyfriends. And I call it the Taylor Swift effect, because I think like out of all the people of like, especially women of our generation, Taylor Swift has done the best job of doing that. Like we were in literally every era with her. And we were there when we were 15 going through Fearless, and we're here at 24, 30, 40, 50 going through midnights, right? And hopefully like the
Yep.
Taylor version of every era thereafter. But
Ever.
like we grew up with her because it was ultimately never about like the era, the colors, the costumes, like the vibe. It was about feeling seen through every stage in our life.
Just
Um, yeah, and I think she's so good at it, and that's that's something I hope that I can bring to the podcast, just like you said.
I can't wait, my love. Thank you
Fun.
so much for coming on and having such a candid
Dude, this
one.
is like the treat of my day. Are you kidding
I
me?
don't
This
mind too. I only
is
wish that
really
we
fun.
were like having drinks over this, but
I know.
that'll be our off camera moment.
I'll come over right now. I'm
Yeah.
on my
Okay,
way.
cool. All right. Well, I love you. Thank you
I
so
love
much.
you.
And everybody, keep an eye out for Sam's upcoming podcast announcements. Make sure you go to her Instagram so you can get all of the skinny on her mascara, her serum, all of the stuff that she promotes, because it's just, it's
The real deal.
get this beauty, except the hair. No, we're not telling about the hair.
We're not talking about that, yeah.
We're talking about it. I love you. Thank you so much, my
I
babe.
love you.